Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the ultimate everyday battleground. And no, it's not a boardroom or a sports field, it's actually your kitchen. We're going deep into food safety basics. It's a topic that literally affects every single meal we eat, yet, the true dynamics of what's happening on our cutting boards, they often remain completely unseen.
So, is an invisible enemy hiding in your kitchen right now? I know, it sounds a bit like science fiction, but the reality is that right at this very moment, there might be a silent, odorless, and completely tasteless invader just hanging out on your countertops, your favorite chef's knife, or, worst of all, directly on your food. You can't see it, you can't smell it, but it's for sure there, and it has the potential to make you and your family really sick. Let's meet this unseen threat. We call it BAC, which is short for bacteria. Think of BAC as, well, actually, think of it as a biological supervillain. Its entire mission is just to multiply on surfaces, spread across your utensils, and ultimately cause foodborne illness. Millions of them could be staging an assault in your home right now. But the good news? The research shows we have a highly effective defense strategy to actively reduce that risk.
To defeat BAC, we're going to rely on what we call the core four practices: clean, separate, cook, and chill. It's a highly effective, predictable roadmap for keeping your meals safe.
Let's kick things off with practice 1, clean.
This right here is the absolute front line of the battle. Because bacteria spread so easily to literally everything you touch, your most crucial point of defense comes down to one number: 20. Just 20 seconds. That's the critical minimum time you need to be scrubbing your hands with warm water and soap to actually wash back down the drain. And you've got to do this before and after handling food, and obviously after using the bathroom, changing diapers, or petting your dog. A quick little splash of water, yeah, that simply won't cut it.
But hey, it goes way beyond just your hands. Things like cutting boards, dishes, and countertops absolutely must be washed with hot, soapy water after prepping each item. And here's a detail that totally catches people off guard. You need to rinse fresh produce even if you aren't going to eat the skin. Think about it. If you slice into a melon, any bacteria hanging out on the outside rind just gets dragged right into the edible flesh by your knife. Crazy, right? So for firm-skinned produce, make sure you rub them under running tap water or scrub them with a clean vegetable brush.
All right, moving right along to practice 2. Separate.
So, if cleaning is all about removing the enemy, separating is about stopping them from crossing enemy lines. Our absolute biggest vulnerability here is cross-contamination. That's BAC's favorite way to travel. Improper handling of raw meat, poultry, seafood, and eggs basically creates a wildly inviting environment for bacteria to leap onto other foods. It spreads throughout the whole kitchen and leads straight to foodborne illness. We absolutely have to shut these transit routes down.
The fix for this is remarkably simple. We need distinct zones. You want one cutting board exclusively for fresh produce and a completely separate one for your raw meat, poultry, and seafood. Never let the two mix. By physically isolating your raw meats from your ready-to-eat foods, you are literally cutting off BAC's supply lines. Let's talk about how to actually execute this tactic in the real world. This practice doesn't even start in your kitchen. It starts at the grocery store. You've got to separate raw meat, poultry, seafood, and eggs from your other items right there in the shopping cart. Keep them separated in your bags on the ride home, and keep them separated once they're sitting in your fridge. And when it is finally time to eat, never, ever place your cooked food on a plate that previously held raw meat or eggs. Just don't do it. Next up is practice 3, cook.
All right, this is where we bring the heat, and we need to bust a really common myth right now. Color is not a reliable indicator of doneness. You literally cannot just cut into a burger, see that it's brown on the inside, and declare it perfectly safe. In fact, data from the CDC links eating undercooked ground beef with a significantly higher risk of illness. Your eyes will deceive you here. Your only true weapon to guarantee you've killed the harmful bacteria is a food thermometer. Think of the thermometer as your targeting system. For roasts, steaks, and fish, you're aiming for a minimum internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. But look at ground meat. That needs to hit 160 degrees. Why the difference? Well, it's because any bacteria on the surface gets mixed all the way through the meat during the grinding process. Eggs and egg dishes, those also need to hit 160 degrees until both the yolk and the white are totally firm. And finally, poultry and reheated leftovers require the absolute highest heat, a safe minimum of 165 degrees. When you're checking poultry, always make sure to probe the innermost part of the thigh, the wing, and the thickest part of the breast.
And guess what? It turns out even our trusty microwaves have vulnerabilities.
When you're reheating food, you have to beware of cold spots. These are basically tiny little safe havens where bacteria can actually survive the cooking process. To stop this from happening, always cover, stir, and rotate your food. You want to leave back absolutely nowhere to hide. If your microwave doesn't happen to have a turntable, just make sure you manually rotate the dish once or twice while it's cooking.
And that brings us to practice 4. Chill. Okay, so if cooking is all about eliminating BAC with intense heat, chilling is about freezing the enemy right in its tracks. And the magic number you need to remember here is 40. Keeping your refrigerator at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below is just incredibly effective at slowing down the growth of harmful bacteria. But don't just guess, use an appliance thermometer to verify it. Oh, and your freezer? That needs to be sitting at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Let's quickly break down the rules of the fridge so you can maximize your chilling power. First off, do not overstuff the refrigerator. Cold air actually has to circulate around your food to keep it safe. Next is the strict time limit. Never let raw meat, poultry, eggs, cooked food, or cut fresh produce just sit out at room temperature for more than 2 hours. And hey, if it's a hot summer day and the temperature outside is above 90 degrees, you only have 1 hour. Finally, when you're putting away leftovers, divide them up into shallow containers. This lets them cool down so much quicker, which dramatically shrinks the window of time BAC has to multiply. Now, when it's time to bring that food back from the chill, there are really only 3 safe methods to thaw it: in the refrigerator, in cold water, or in the microwave. Please never thaw food by just leaving it on the counter at room temperature. That is basically an open invitation for bacteria to multiply like crazy. And one absolutely critical note here: if you're using the cold water or the microwave method to thaw, you must cook that food immediately right after. So we've stripped away all the mystery. You now know exactly what this unseen invader is, and more importantly, you have the exact playbook to defeat it. Clean, separate, cook, and chill. These aren't just polite recommendations, guys. They are your daily armor. So the very next time you step into your kitchen to prep a meal, I want you to ask yourself, who is really in control of your countertops?